Have you noticed your adult children speaking to you with that subtle tone of dismissal lately? Does it break your heart when they ignore your calls, make important decisions without consulting you, or treat your advice as if it's completely outdated? What if I told you there's a proven approach to regain their respect without arguments, guilt trips, or damaging your relationship further? In this video, I'll reveal 6 powerful strategies that could transform how your children see and treat you, starting today. Let me tell you about Patricia, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. For decades, she'd been the rock of her family, the one everyone turned to for advice and support. But over the past few years, she noticed a disturbing shift. Her 3 adult children started treating her opinions as irrelevant. They'd roll their eyes during family gatherings, interrupt her mid-sentence, and make important decisions without including her. At first, she tried confronting them directly, which only made things worse. The more she demanded respect, the less she received. Patricia felt invisible in her own family until she discovered these 6 approaches that completely transformed her relationships. Within just a few months, her children were calling her for advice again, including her in decisions and treating her with the dignity she deserved. How did she do it? That's exactly what you'll learn today. Way 1. Stop chasing their approval. Are you constantly adjusting your behavior, your opinions, or even your appearance, hoping to win back your children's respect? Have you found yourself holding back what you really think, agreeing with things you don't believe, or going out of your way to please them, only to be met with more dismissal? Family psychologists at the Center for Parent-Child Relations confirm a counterintuitive truth. The more desperately you seek approval from your adult children, the less respect you actually receive. When you chase validation, you inadvertently send a powerful message that your worth depends on their judgment. This creates a dangerous power imbalance that erodes respect rather than building it. Take Spencer, a 71-year-old retired accountant from Oregon. For years, he kept changing his opinions, his plans, and even his living arrangements to accommodate his 3 adult children. He thought if he just tried hard enough, they'd start treating him with the respect he craved. But the opposite happened. The more he bent over backward, the more they took him for granted. During a family dinner, his son actually patted him on the head like a child when he offered a suggestion about finances, his area of expertise for over 40 years. That moment was both humiliating and eye-opening. Here's what Spencer did that changed everything. He stopped seeking their approval entirely. The next time his son dismissed his financial advice, instead of trying to prove himself or backing down, he simply said, "You're free to do what you think is best," and changed the subject. When his daughter criticized his decision to travel rather than defending himself or canceling his plans, he responded calmly, "I appreciate your concern, but I've made my decision." This is what you must do starting today. Make decisions based on your own values without looking for their validation. Speak your mind confidently, even when your views differ from theirs. Stop adjusting your behavior to win their approval. The moment you stop chasing respect and start acting like someone who already has it, the dynamic will begin to shift. Are you ready to stand in your own authority today? Way 2. Set clear, calm boundaries. Do your children speak to you in ways you would never have allowed when they were younger? Have they developed habits of interrupting you, dismissing your input, or treating you with subtle disrespect? Are you accepting this behavior because you're afraid of creating conflict or pushing them away? Research from the American Association of Family Therapists shows something surprising. Boundaries don't push adult children away, they actually increase respect. According to Dr. Howard Miller, family therapy specialist, when parents fail to establish clear boundaries with adult children, they inadvertently create a relationship where disrespect becomes normalized and expected. The uncomfortable truth is that people, Even your own children will treat you according to the standards you allow. Consider Diane, a 65-year-old widow from Michigan. Her son and daughter had fallen into a pattern of constantly dismissing her opinions, making decisions about her life without consulting her, and even speaking to her in condescending tones. Whenever she tried to assert herself, they'd say things like, "Mom, you're getting older, we're just trying to help," making her feel both guilty and incompetent. This continued until she realized she was enabling their behavior by not setting clear boundaries. Here's what transformed Diane's situation. She invited both children for coffee separately and calmly stated, "I've noticed a pattern in how we interact that needs to change. When you interrupt me or make decisions without consulting me, it's not acceptable. I respect you as adults, and I expect the same respect in return." When her son tried to interrupt her during this conversation, she gently raised her hand and said, "Please, let me finish," then continued. The most powerful part, when they tested these boundaries later, and they did, she remained absolutely consistent. This is what you must do to reclaim respect. Clearly identify what behavior you will no longer accept. Express these boundaries calmly and directly, without anger or accusation. Most importantly, enforce these boundaries consistently, every single time they're crossed. The first few times will be uncomfortable, but remember this: your relationship isn't being damaged by setting boundaries. It's already damaged by the lack of them. Isn't it time to establish a new standard of interaction with your adult children? Way 3. Live your own full, independent life. Have you inadvertently made your children feel like they're responsible for your happiness? Do they know you're waiting by the phone for their calls, or rearranging your schedule whenever they might have time for you? Are your conversations dominated by questions about their lives, with little to share about your own? Relationship experts have discovered that parents who maintain their own interests, social connections, and sense of purpose earn significantly more respect from their adult children. According to Dr. Elizabeth Walsh from the Institute of Family Dynamics, when parents build lives that are rich and fulfilling independent of their children, they transition from being perceived as needy to being seen as valuable, autonomous individuals. This psychological shift completely transforms how adult children view their parents. Consider Robert, a 73-year-old retired teacher from Florida. After his wife passed away, he unconsciously began leaning heavily on his 3 adult children for emotional support and companionship. He'd call them multiple times daily, ask when they were coming to visit again as soon as they left, and had little to talk about besides his loneliness or their lives. Though they loved him deeply, his children started avoiding his calls and limiting visits because the emotional burden felt overwhelming. They saw him as someone to take care of rather than someone to respect. The turning point came when Robert joined a senior hiking club, reconnected with old friends, and volunteered teaching English to immigrants. Suddenly, he had stories to tell, new friends to spend time with, and a genuine sense of purpose. When his children called, he sometimes wasn't even available. When they did connect, he had interesting experiences to share rather than just questions about their lives. The result? His children started calling more often, genuinely interested in his new activities. They began seeking his advice again, viewing him as someone with a valuable, independent perspective. Here's what you must do starting today. Pursue your own interests passionately, whether it's a hobby, volunteer work, or learning something new. Build relationships outside your family. Friends your own age who share your interests. Create a schedule that fulfills you, whether your children are part of it or not. When you do see your children, share your experiences rather than just asking about theirs. The moment you stop making them the center of your world, they'll start seeing you differently, as someone with their own valuable life, worthy of both time and respect. Doesn't that sound like the relationship you truly want? Way 4. Practice strategic vulnerability. Are you trying to maintain a perfect facade around your children? Do you hide your challenges, never ask for help, and try to appear completely self-sufficient even when you're struggling? Or perhaps you've gone to the opposite extreme, seeming helpless and overwhelmed by every small problem. Studies from the Family Psychology Institute reveal a surprising finding: strategic vulnerability, sharing. Genuine challenges in specific areas, while demonstrating strength in others, actually increases respect from adult children. Dr. Jennifer Thompson explains, complete self-sufficiency creates distance, while constant neediness creates burden. The sweet spot is selective vulnerability, which creates connection without dependence. This was transformative for Evelyn, a 67-year-old former business owner from Texas. After her husband died, she swung between two extremes, sometimes fiercely independent, refusing help even when she needed it, and other times completely overwhelmed by simple tasks she'd always relied on her husband to handle. Her children responded with either frustration at her stubborn refusal of assistance or impatience with her helplessness. Neither approach earned their respect. Everything changed when Evelyn adopted a balanced approach. She identified specific areas where she genuinely needed help, like understanding her new smart thermostat and handling some complex tax issues, and asked for assistance directly. "I'd appreciate your help with setting up this device," or "Would you have time to look over these tax forms with me?" At the same time, she demonstrated clear competence in other areas, handling her finances, maintaining her home, and building a new social life. This selective vulnerability created a healthy interdependence that allowed her children to contribute without feeling burdened. Here's what you must do. Identify 1 to 2 specific areas where you genuinely could use some help from your children. Ask for assistance directly and specifically, without apology or excessive gratitude. At the same time, actively demonstrate competence and independence in other areas of your life. This balanced approach shows that you value their contribution without needing them to manage your entire life. Isn't it time to create a relationship based on mutual contribution rather than either complete independence or dependence? Way 5. Upgrade how you communicate. Do your children seem irritated when you call? Do they cut conversations short, seem distracted, or find excuses to hang up quickly? Have you noticed them exchanging glances or checking their phones when you start telling a story at family gatherings? Communication specialists at the National Institute for Family Relations have identified that older parents unknowingly use conversation patterns that dramatically diminish respect. According to Dr. Thomas Wilson, many seniors don't realize they've developed habits like excessive questioning, lengthy monologues, repetitive stories, or unsolicited advice giving, all of which create conversation fatigue in adult children. William, a 70-year-old retired engineer from Arizona, couldn't understand why his children seemed to avoid phone calls and cut visits short. He loved them deeply and couldn't figure out why conversations felt so strained. During a heart-to-heart with his youngest daughter, he learned something painful. His communication style was pushing them away. His calls always lasted over an hour. He'd repeat the same stories, pepper them with questions about every detail of their lives, and offer unsolicited advice about everything from their careers to how they raised their children. William completely transformed his relationships by making these changes. He started keeping most calls under 15 minutes. Instead of launching into lengthy stories, he'd ask if they had time to chat first. He practiced being more concise, focusing on highlights rather than every detail. Most importantly, he stopped giving unsolicited advice entirely. Instead, he'd ask thoughtful questions and actually listen to the answers. The result? His children started calling him more often, conversations flowed more naturally, and they began asking for his input rather than bracing for it. Here's what you need to do immediately. Be concise in your communication. Respect their time constraints by getting to the point. Listen more than you speak. Aim for a 30-70 ratio where they're talking more than you are. Ask thoughtful questions instead of giving unsolicited advice. And most importantly, be aware of non-verbal cues that they're ready to end the conversation, and respect them by wrapping up positively. Can you imagine how different your conversations might feel if you implemented these changes today? Way 6. Focus on your relationship, not your role. Are you still treating your adult children like they're teenagers? Do you find yourself giving directions, making decisions for them, or trying to protect them from consequences? Have you had trouble transitioning from being the authority figure to being a trusted advisor? Family therapists confirm that parents who successfully transition to adult-to-adult relationships earn significantly more respect than those who cling to outdated parental roles. Dr. Sarah Johnson, specialist in intergenerational relationships, explains, "When parents continue to relate to their adult children as if they're still minors, it creates a fundamental disconnect. The children feel infantilized rather than respected as capable adults." Martha, a 69-year-old retired nurse from Illinois, couldn't understand why her relationship with her children had become so strained. She'd always been a devoted mother, making sure they ate well, made good decisions, and stayed safe. The problem was, she hadn't adjusted her approach even though her children were now in their 40s with families of their own. She still questioned their decisions, offered unsolicited dietary advice, and tried to solve their problems without being asked. Her intentions were loving, but the impact was undermining. The breakthrough came when Martha realized she needed to relate to her children as fellow adults, not as a mother to children. She started asking about their perspectives rather than offering immediate solutions. When they mentioned challenges, instead of jumping in with advice, she'd ask, "What are you thinking of doing about that?" She began treating their decisions with respect, even when she disagreed. Most powerfully, she started sharing her own challenges and asking for their input occasionally, demonstrating that she saw them as capable adults with wisdom to offer. Here's what you must do starting today. Treat your children as capable adults who can make their own decisions. Engage with their ideas respectfully, even when you disagree. Shift from giving directions to offering perspectives, and only when asked. Position yourself as a wise resource they can turn to, not an authority they must obey. Most importantly, be willing to learn from them and acknowledge their expertise in areas where they excel. Wouldn't it feel wonderful to have a relationship based on mutual respect rather than outdated hierarchy? These 6 powerful strategies: stopping the approval chase, setting clear boundaries, living your own full life, practicing strategic vulnerability, upgrading your communication, and focusing on relationship rather than role, can transform how your adult children see and treat you. Remember Patricia from our opening story? She implemented each of these approaches over just a few months, and the change in her family dynamic was remarkable. Her children started calling more often, actually listening to her perspectives and including her in meaningful ways. The respect she'd been desperately seeking came naturally once she stopped demanding it and started earning it through these proven approaches. What will you try first? I recommend starting with just one strategy this week, perhaps the one that resonated most strongly as you listened. These changes don't happen overnight, but with consistency and patience, you can create the respectful, loving relationship you deserve with your adult children. Share in the comments which strategy you'll implement first. I'd love to hear which one spoke to you most powerfully. Hit the like button if you found value in these insights, and subscribe for more content on navigating relationships in your golden years. Share this video with friends who might be facing similar challenges. You might just help heal another family relationship.